Georgia is one of 5 states holding primaries today. The state's primary was originally scheduled for March, but because of coronavirus, it got delayed. Polls close in Georgia at 7 p.m. local time, but many residents in the state have already cast their votes, either by in-person early voting or by absentee voting. Now, mail-in voting has been the topic of a lot of the press over the past few weeks, but it's almost a non-issue in Georgia. Check out this headline from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Absentee voting in Georgia embraced equally by voters of both parties. But here's the little thing that you have to catch here. Georgia's absentee ballot system works very differently than most other states, and the Secretary of State, a Republican, actually encouraged it by sending, check this, they sent the applications for absentee ballots to all of their voters. Joining us now to tell us how that all works is Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Mr. Secretary, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, the media likes to keep talking about mail-in voting. What you guys did was absentee voting, and you sent out the application. Explain for viewers the difference.
When we sent out the applications, we sent those out to 6.9 million of our active voters in Georgia. And what they had to do is open up the application, take a look, had to make, first of all, did they want to vote absentee? Number 2, did they want a Democrat ballot, Republican ballot, or an independent ballot? Then they had to put their birth date on that, and then they had to write their signature. And then when it came back to us, they had to also put a stamp on it at their expense. They sent that back to us and went to the county levels. It was entered into this database. We had signature match. And that's really important that people understand. We've had this in place since 2005, and we have guardrails in place. So we have several guardrails in Georgia that are in place to make sure that we have voter integrity throughout the process.
Voter integrity. Someone has to sign their name on it. They have to request the ballot. In these other states, they're literally getting just the ballot in their mailbox. So if someone grabbed that out of their mailbox, they're having a problem voting and somebody else is doing it for them. There is no accountability if it's just mail-in versus absentee.
Correct. That's a big difference. Also, in the process of mailing that, we put, really identifications on there so we could track that through the postal system so we knew where those applications were, where those ballots were. So we actually could then track it and then have just better data and information.
Secretary, one thing I want to ask you about, Georgia has voter ID in place, but a lot on the left say that this causes voter suppression. Although Georgia's had a great turnout so far, so what have you done differently to make that happen?
Well, we've had photo ID for about 10 years now, and actually now many studies from even liberal-leaning think tanks have come back and said photo ID does not depress turnout. And so I don't know why some folks haven't got that message. Everyone can vote. And in our absentee ballot program, we ended up with nearly 1 million people vote in the absentee process. We have 16 days of early voting. We had 350,000, which is about 100,000 more than we've ever had before. And right now, before 7 a.m. this morning, we had more voters vote in this primary than we've ever had in any other general primary in June.
The interesting thing about that what you were just telling Lindsay is when you look at the amount of African Americans, minorities that voted 2016 versus 2020, it's actually been an increase, hasn't it?
Well, exactly, because our system encourages people to vote. We want to make it very easy to vote. We also want to make it very difficult, so it's very tough to cheat in Georgia. And that's why I believe, I'm an engineer, so I look at what can we make sure we have guardrails. So in Georgia, it is illegal to do ballot harvesting. That's a bill that we passed last year. So some of these other states, they don't have any guardrails. They don't have anything against ballot harvesting. We also joined an organization called ERIC, which is Electronic Registration Information Center. So we could update our voter rolls through objective measures as opposed to subjective measures. So when someone moves out of Georgia, they move to Texas, we'll get that information and we can take them off our voter rolls. That's really important to make sure your list is accurate.
Secretary, there's reports out that over 1 million people did not receive their absentee ballot to build a vote for today's election. What can they do and how are you counting for those votes?
Well, we have right now, it's nowhere near that number, but we know that some people haven't gotten their absentee ballots. And primarily what that was Fulton County. Unfortunately, it's our largest county. We've already opened up an investigation. We opened that up last week. And we see some issues going on in Fulton County today with more management failures of the county election director. So we'll be continuing to focus in on that. I think we need to be laser focused. They need to, really clean up what they do, because so many of the other counties have struggled through COVID, finding poll workers. How do they run an absentee ballot program and standing that up quickly with us? And have had tremendous success. And I know those other county election directors, they've been struggling also. If you ask them if they had an easy day today, they'll say, no, I haven't had an easy day. But the voters haven't noticed in those counties. We've had 4 or 5 counties, in Fulton County particularly, where the voters have really been, seeing all these delays, and it's just unacceptable.
So we're running out of time, but I just want to get a real quick answer from you. I read media story after media story that says unequivocally there is no fraud in mail-in ballots. Not what you did with absentee ballots, but the ones that don't require verification, where these states are just literally putting ballots in mailboxes. Do you believe that that's true, or do you believe that there is, or the potential thereof, fraud?
In fact, there's a bipartisan presidential commission in 2005. President Jimmy Carter said if there's any fraud in a system, the greatest likelihood of that will be in the absentee ballot process. And so there are legitimate reasons to be concerned about that. You have to make sure you have guardrails in place. And I think that John Fund wrote a book about election integrity, and he really gave some historical, data points about that. So I think that is one area that you may need to make sure you have guardrails. Georgia has guardrails, and where we can make sure that it's easy to vote but hard to cheat, I think that's a good thing for everyone, because you have confidence in the system.
I appreciate you explaining that, because if you just listen to the media right now, you're not getting the real story. And there's a big difference between what you did and how you ensure the integrity of the vote and what a lot of these other states are doing. So good luck tonight. I hope you actually get out at a decent hour.
Well, I came out of the General Assembly when we had day 40 and crossover day, and we'd be here till 12 midnight. So not a problem.
Okay. Good luck today, Mr. Secretary. All right. Coming up. President Trump got a big break with the tremendous jobs report last week. How can the White House get the economic message out with most of the media focused on the protests around the country? We're going to ask our company next.